Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Stanley with Stanley Handcrafted, and today we're going to be talking about what is the best wax if you're going to start out in candle making. And you'll have to excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is kind of going in and out here. Now this is a question that we get a lot in the DIY Facebook group, and probably the #1 question I get in emails, Snapchat, Instagram DMs, Facebook, you name it. What is the best wax, or what wax should I start out with? And the simple answer is there is no best wax. Now the wax really comes down to personal preference. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't better waxes to start out with, but as far as choosing a wax, there really isn't a clear-cut choice that anybody's going to tell you to go get. There just isn't one out there. There are a lot of factors that go into picking your first wax, which is why I always tell people to figure out what they want to do, what they want to make, kind of what their goal is with their candles, and then I can kind of give you a better idea, or they can get a better idea of what wax to start with. So usually when somebody asks me this question, I like to ask, what are you trying to do? Are you going for eco-friendly? Are you going for strong scent? Are you looking to just put stuff on the market? Do you have any preference as far as environmental friendly, eco-friendly, or just don't care what kind of wax you use? And then from there, I can give you a better understanding or a better answer of what to start out with or what to use. Now with the different types of waxes, and I'm not gonna list all of them here because there's just so many, but you have a bunch of different ones that you can start out with. Soy is probably the #1 that people go to. Soy wax, there are paraffin waxes, and there's several varieties and types of paraffins. There's also a soy and paraffin blend, which is obviously just the two of those combined. There's also a new coconut paraffin blend, which I just got in. I haven't actually gotten to test it more than a couple times yet, so I don't really have a full review on that one just yet. And then there are, of course, waxes like coconut, coconut apricot. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Beeswax is another one. So you really want to go through and read kind of what the pros and cons are of each of these waxes. And I'm going to cover a little bit of them here, but not go into great detail on each one because that would take a long time. So if you're wanting something that's kind of environmental friendly or eco-friendly, a lot of people like to go towards the soy waxes and the beeswax. Now they're both very good waxes. They're both very clean as far as getting into the environment, eco, everything like that. But even once you get down into those, a lot of people will differ on what exactly is eco-friendly, environmental friendly. Some people that like soys don't like the beeswax because it of course involves bees and they don't want to do that. So a lot of people using going after like a vegan candle or something like that will stay away from the beeswax. Now there are some drawbacks with those waxes, and I definitely don't tell anybody to start with beeswax. It's a very sensitive wax, can be very temperamental. Trying to get a good hot throw, mixing your oils into that one can be very tricky. So that is definitely more of an advanced wax. I would never tell anybody just getting into it to start with beeswax. Learn how to make candles first, figure out what you're doing, and then get into beeswax. Soy is another one that I also tell people not to start with. It's a great wax. If you have the money to put into it, you can definitely start with soy. And that's not to say that people won't get into soy and immediately have a good candle from it. But getting a good hot throw and figuring out exactly how soy works in the beginning is definitely a little bit more tricky. And if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you know that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with soy wax. And I definitely tell people, it's a very good wax. If you're gonna go for it, you're gonna like it. The cons you're gonna run into are trying to achieve a good hot throw. Now, soy doesn't get as strong of a hot throw as a paraffin wax. It's just not gonna happen. But you can do things to make your soy get a better hot throw. It's just gonna take you some time to get to that point. So that's probably the biggest thing. Soy is, of course, a natural product, soybeans. It goes through a little bit of a process to get to the flakes and everything like that, but it is kind of environmentally friendly, as most people would look for or think of. But you will run into issues where trying to blend the oils, trying to find the right temperature, and you've seen my videos here, adding at high temperatures, which the manufacturer recommends, and then doing my low temp method, which I think is a good method to use. But until you figure out the right point, you can go through a lot of wax and spend a lot of money getting soy perfected, basically. Now jumping over into the paraffins, a lot of people don't like the paraffins because it's a petroleum product. If you don't have any problem with that, the paraffins are going to give you the strongest scent throw out of any of the waxes. And the paraffins and the Parasoy blends are definitely the ones I recommend to first timers, people just now getting into it, because they are so forgiving. You can kind of add the oils to a lot of paraffins because the point at which you want to add your oils around 180, and then by the time it starts to cool down, which is usually 155 to 145 depending on the wax. It's a shorter range to add your oil, so there's a lot less of a chance that you're gonna burn off that fragrance like you will with soy. Now that doesn't mean that paraffin is just a straight shot, simple wax to use also. You're gonna have your pros and cons with that one as well. It's definitely something that you wanna pay attention to if you're gonna be selling and looking into markets, depending on the area that you're in. Like I said before, I'm in an area that has a lot of environmental friendly people around here, so they tend to not look for the paraffins, and a lot of people will stay away from those because it is a petroleum product. And there are a bunch of different paraffin waxes. There's softer ones like the 4627, there are harder ones like the 4625, which is used for tarts and melts. That one breaks away like bricks of wax. It comes out in chunks, whereas the 4627 is like a really thick and sticky petroleum jelly, like Vaseline, like a hard Vaseline. And then of course, it's gonna be no surprise that my favorite wax, the one that I recommend to almost everybody starting out, is the Parasoy, or the IGI 6006. Now the reason I recommend this wax so much is because it's so easy to work with. You've got a blend of the paraffin and a blend of the soy, so you kind of hit both markets. You've got the good hot throw from this one, and then you kind of touch into the soy. And you're not gonna fool anybody. You're not gonna get a completely soy targeted customer and get them into this candle. If they're looking for a soy candle or beeswax candle, they're not gonna pick up the Parasoy. And you definitely wanna let people know that it is a paraffin soy blend, just so that they don't get it home, because a lot of people can smell the paraffin and you don't want them getting home and realizing that you sold them a paraffin candle and labeled it as a soy. But the Parasoy blend is a very good wax. It's very forgiving. You can add the oil at 180, you can add the oil at 155, and you're still gonna get a good hot throw from any one of those ranges, which is exactly why I recommend that wax. Now I will say, there are waxes that give a better hot throw than that. There are a lot of cons with the 6006. The sinkholes are a big one. As you can see right here, you've got a sinkhole. I poured this one a week ago and I still haven't fixed it yet. I gotta cut the tops, or cut the wicks off and then fill those in. But this is probably one of the biggest things that you'll run into with 6006 is the wax does shrink, and a lot of paraffins do shrink, so you will have to deal with sinkholes like that. Whereas the soy is usually a non-shrinking wax, so it's a single pour. Once you pour it, it sets, you're done. So when it comes down to it, once you figure out the wax you want to use, if you want something environmental friendly, if you want something with a hot strong throw, you want something kind of in the middle, it's a lot easier to recommend a wax out there. So there really isn't a number one, like a go-to wax for anybody. Like I said, they all have their pros, they all have their cons. That's not to say that picking one is going to be a bad idea. It's just you need to know that going into some of these, you're going to have a little bit more of a learning curve, like with the soys and the beeswax, than you would with, say, like a straight paraffin or a paraffin blend. And for somebody who is wanting to get into this, I would definitely say, like I said, the 6006 is my number one choice to recommend to anybody starting out. Once you nail that one, you kind of figure out exactly where to add your oils. And once you get the process down, it's easy to jump into like the soy, like I mentioned before, and then jump into that one and start playing with it. And you won't be doing a lot of the early stage testing with a wax that's gonna have a higher learning curve. So I hope that made sense, and I kind of narrowed down some of the wax choices, gave you a little bit more options. If I missed anything, I definitely missed some waxes. There are dozens out there to choose from. I only listed kind of the biggest ones out there. Again, like I said, the beeswax, the soy, the paraffin, and the paraffin blends, coconut blends, just to give kind of a quick overview of what's out there. So again, if I did miss anything, please ask in the comments down below. If you'd like any more information on any of these waxes, please ask in the comments down below, or ask in the DIY Facebook group. There's a lot of discussions going on about these waxes. And some of these waxes I haven't used myself, but there are people in the group that have used these other waxes, like the coconut blends. They've been using them for a long time, so they can definitely answer your questions if I can't answer it here. So that's pretty much it. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and you can reach out to me with any of the social media links down below: Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, the website, the email, everything is down below. So go ahead and reach out, jump into the DIY Facebook group, introduce yourself, jump over there and just get into any of the discussions that are ongoing. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more.